Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Perfect World based on novel. So let's start. The word marriage was actually spoken so openly by Xiahao. When Hualinga heard this, her face became completely red. She stared at him, always feeling like this fella became more and more unbridled recently. Only, when she thought about how they were going to separate again, she sighed, not saying anything back. Her eyes became filled with watery mist, looking blurry. They were going to have to separate again, while this time, Xiahao was going even further, heading into the depths of the Forbidden Region, heading far away from the 3,000 provinces, his journey incredibly dangerous. If he ended up making it back alive, Xiahao was going to leave this place and head for the world beyond. It was unknown how long this separation would be. When she thought about these things, Hualinga felt extremely emotional. She had a feeling that after this separation, the next time they meet might seem like forever away, unknown when they'll meet again. You have to be careful, she said softly yet firmly. It was because the Forbidden Region was too dangerous, even sect masters having a chance of dying after entering, let alone someone like Xiahao. This was a road of life and death, a path that once taken, he could not turn around, whether he would even make it out alive difficult to say. Don't worry, no one can kill me. I am quite looking forward to that Forbidden Region though, who knows, I might discover a few immortal birds and auspicious beasts, and bring one back to serve as your mount. Xiahao said while laughing. He was always cheerful, and also quite self-confident, not taking the dangers ahead to heart. When the blue-pupiled woman heard this, she smiled, her skin not thin at this time either, giggling as she said, "How about you gift me one too?" "That's a gift for my wife, are you my wife?" Xiahao asked in a rather lively manner. "Youngstershire, offending older sister like this, aren't you scared that I'll find people to tidy you up after you enter the Heavenly Deity institution?" The blue-pupiled young lady said. "Send your army this way, I'll subdue them one by one." Xiahao laughed loudly. "Fine, you can act as egotistical and unbridled as you want. When the time comes, I will definitely show you special treatment, find a few sisters to properly take care of you." The blue-pupiled woman revealed a smile, but no matter how one looked at it, it seemed a bit sinister. Really looking forward to it. What kind of backgrounds do those sisters have? Xiahao laughed in a lowly manner. The daughter of emperors, descendants of long-life beings, and true fairies. I just fear that you'll turn around and run when the time comes, not daring to entertain them. The blue-pupiled woman giggled. He won't be able to run, definitely be immediately suppressed. That ice-cold woman said. All right, then you all just wait to welcome this majesty. I will definitely enter the Heavenly Deity institution, wait for you all to look after me. Xiahao laughed rather brashly. That ice beauty glared at him, while the blue-pupiled young lady was still giggling, saying, "Even daring to exchange your words, sure, when the time comes, don't come crying now. Let's see how you do." Soon after, they left Central Province. Following Xiahao's needs, after traveling several hundred provinces, the silver warship stopped. "We'll meet again at the Heavenly Institution." Xiahao waved his hand, and then brought Hualinga off the warship. "Where are we going?" Hualinga asked. Just now when she saw Xiahao and the two girls bicker, she only smiled, not saying anything. "To Demon Province to meet my grandfather." Demon Province, a place that was previously ravaged by the chaos of war. Many great demons appeared in the ancient years, obtaining their reputation precisely in this province. In reality, it was rumored that this place had immortal ancient great era's remains, previously a place where the great battles were incomparably bitter. There were remains of demons with evil energy. This was the first time Xiahao brought someone with him, as well as the first time he brought over a young lady to see his grandfather. Grandpa 15 had long sensed him, flying out from a volcano, his black hair scattering about. His figure was tall and large, extremely bold and powerful. Right now, his blood energy was flourishing, his bronze skin flickering with precious light, his outer appearance only looking around 30 or 40. "How Grandpa?" They met each other not long ago, not much time had passed since their last meeting. The grandfather and grandson were both extremely happy. "Who is this girl, could it be?" The great demonic god looked at Hualinga, revealing a smile, laughing loudly. "Grandfather, this is my wife, I brought her here to show you." Xiahao's skin was always extremely thick, his face not carrying redness, eyes not blinking as he said this. Hulinga truly couldn't take it. Was there this type of introduction? This was the first time she was meeting Grandpa 15, yet she was already completely red-faced. This girl is quite excellent, and if you like her, then Grandpa naturally supports you. Grandpa 15 said, his face all smiles. I heard about Grandpa 15 previously. Hulinga greeted seriously. She had previously heard of Grandpa 15's great reputation in the lower realm, and even more so learning about how he threw the imperial capital into chaos for his grandson, suppressing enemies on all sides. Towards this elder, she was full of admiration. Fire Emperor's daughter. When the great demonic god learned of her origins, he immediately roared with laughter. Fire Emperor was, in the end, a hero in his generation in the lower realm, an extraordinary individual. Grandpa 15 had naturally met the Fire Emperor before. Now that he saw his daughter, he was extremely satisfied. Aside from his admiration towards the Fire Emperor, it was also because they both came from the lower realm, both of them viewed as sinners' blood descendants. There's no need to speak too much, we're family now. Grandpa 15 laughed joyously, feeling extremely happy. Grandpa 15 was overjoyed, continuously patting Shahao's shoulder, having him prepare some heavenly deity meat and fine wine. They were going to drink their fill today. When they left last time, Shahao left Grandpa 15 with quite a bit of heavenly deity meat, for example, flood dragon, dragon sparrow, golden crane, and others. Everything that should be there was there, as well as a bit of sacred wine. Soon after, the golden crane in the cauldron was already cooked, the dragon sparrow wing also finished roasting. Even the fragrance of holy medicine wine floated about. How about I hold the marriage for you two today? When he was half drunk, Grandpa 15 said this. Hulinga immediately lowered her head. This was just too rushed. Even though they had to worry about separating, mentioning it like this was still too abrupt. Grandpa, there's one thing I haven't spoken to you about yet. I am going to take a special cultivation path and leave for a long time. With the future hard to predict, this isn't a good time to talk about those things. Shahao said. He secretly told his grandfather that the path was extremely difficult, life and death difficult to predict. With his departure imminent, he didn't wish to wrong Hulinga. What if he couldn't return? When Hulinga's embarrassment was gone, she also felt rather frustrated and disappointed. Were they going to separate just like that? The road ahead was boundless. When were they going to meet again? Grandpa 15 was a smart person, knowing that he couldn't stop his grandson. That was his path, so he couldn't randomly hold a wedding, because if anything unexpected happened to his grandson, wouldn't that be wronging the young lady before him? Shahao stayed with his grandfather here for 2 days, and then he left. Hulinga sighed, feeling emotional. Where do you want to go? I'll bring you there. Shahao said, putting aside his carefree and frivolous attitude, now serious. It was because he was going to leave soon. You are leaving again. In the higher realms, this boundless world, I only have father and you to rely on, and now, you are leaving again. Hulinga was dejected, clearly distressed. She came from the lower realm, and now, she was no longer the princess of a country. In the past few years, she lived in the fire mulberry forest, wearing rough hemp clothes, quietly waiting for a single person to come back. She was completely isolated from this world. Now, an extremely important person was going to leave, filling her with sadness. If I can come back alive, I will definitely come looking for you. Shahao said. They said that there will be great chaos in the future. Is that true? Hulinga looked at him. If the day came when heaven and earth collapsed, chaos engulfing the world, would they be able to meet again? At that time, where would the two of them be? If that day truly comes, no matter where I am, I will return to protect you. Shahao made this vow, his voice resounding, ringing like a divine sword. I just want you to be safe, Hulinga said while carrying tears. She was extremely lonely in the higher realms, not wishing for this important person of hers to leave. I will return. No one can kill me. Shahao said. He was going to see her off, asking her where she wished to go. Hulinga remained silent, her expression blank. Where was she supposed to go? Where was her home? Shahao sent her to Sin province, arriving at Fire Emperor's place of seclusion, wishing for her to stay here and wait for Fire Emperor to return. However, Hulinga shook her head, her eyes full of tears, reluctant to part and full of sadness. She insisted on sending him off, wishing to see him enter the uninhabited region's depths. It's too dangerous. I won't feel at ease if you have to return on your own. Shahao didn't agree. Just stay here. Fire Emperor will return sooner or later, stay with him. Shahao said, and then he looked at Little Wolf, saying, work hard and cultivate, protect Linga well. Shahao stopped here for 2 days. In the end, he had to leave. Just send me to the Fire Mulberry Forest. I want to live there in seclusion. Hualinga suddenly said, wishing to live in that peaceful and tranquil Fire Mulberry Forest. Shahao's mind was immediately shaken, a feeling that was difficult to describe welling up. The fire mulberry flowers were blossoming, everywhere scarlet red. They came here again. A cool breeze blew past, the fire mulberry trees stretching as far as the eyes could see swayed about. Red gemstone-like flowers fluttered down, clear fragrance wafting out. In that forest, the fiery red flower petals appeared in large amounts, fluttering all over the skies like a fleeting sunset glow. I really like this place. Hualinga said softly. She looked at the fiery red ancient trees, and the mulberry leaf-picking girls. Her heart seemed to have calmed down again. It was because she had memories here, a place of longing and hope. She had previously waited for a person here. It allowed her heart to calm down and feel content. She never felt that she would return after just leaving this place. This time, compared to the last, was even more unknown. Shahao's life or death was difficult to say. Even if he lived, he was still going to leave this world. Hualinga was disappointed and frustrated, her mind at a loss. When they met again, it really was unknown how many years would have passed. At that time, the entire world would already be in disorder, flames of war everywhere. Would they even be able to meet again? This reunion, even though it brought her joy, making her feel blessed by heaven, the next time seemed so far away. She knew that in the future, many heroes of this world would wither away, blood-dyeing mountains and rivers. In those warring years, everything was unknown. It was hard for Shahao to turn back, he had to fight. They were going to separate. Shahao looked at her silently, not knowing what to say. The fire mulberry flowers have bloomed. Year after year, I've waited for your return here. Hualinga said softly, looking at him, her eyes about to see him off into the distance. Only, she had a feeling that after this separation, it might very well be forever. We will definitely see each other again. Shahao said, feeling a bit of a sour feeling, but his voice was still firm. Hualinga raised her head, looking at him, and then at the sparkling flower petals fluttering everywhere. Tears tumbled down from her eyes, but she was smiling, saying, you should be going. There were some people who couldn't be held back, some things worth remembering. She didn't cry in grief, only calmly sending him off. She smiled, but there were also tears as she saw Shahao off into the distance. Shahao was disappointed and frustrated, his heart beating fiercely. He walked forward a few steps, and then stopped looking back, finding it hard to move his feet. He couldn't help but think to himself, what exactly was all this for? Was this life entirely for the sake of cultivation? If he continued down this path, he might be able to reach the peak one day, overlook the world under the sky, but when he turned around and looked back, at that time, just how many people and events that were worth spending time on would he have missed out on? Was it worth it? He didn't know. You should go, I'll silently pray for you here, wish you safety, obtaining long life. This world is going to enter chaos, the mountains and rivers in the future collapsing, blood flowing like rivers. You don't need to hesitate. Since you chose that path, you have to be firm. If the world no longer exists one day, what me and you is there to talk about? Regardless of where you go, even if you leave this world, rushing into the 9 great heavens, crossing the desolate borders, fighting while soaked in blood, I will always be in this corner of the world, waiting for you in this fire mulberry tree forest, silently waiting, wishing you well, praying for your safety. Hualinga's voice transmitted over. She wiped away her tears, struggling to put on a smile, waving her hands towards him. Shahao truly found it difficult to move his feet. This long journey away, to reach the peak of Martial Dao, and to fight a great battle, a single separation, and who knew how many years would pass. He knew that he would miss out on many things if he left like this. I'll bring you with me then. Shahao said. No. Hualinga shook her head firmly. Why? Shahao asked. I don't wish to become a burden for you. Even if I am protected at your side, in good health for a while, when the crucial moment comes, I will definitely cause your heart to waver. Hualinga refused. She knew that it would be difficult for even Shahao to protect himself, the road ahead incredibly dangerous. If he had to worry about her too, it would definitely be even more dangerous. Shahao strolled through the fire mulberry forest with her, silent the entire time. After who knew how much time had passed, in the end, they still had to separate. He couldn't stop his steps here. Take care of yourself, I will return, Shahao said. He ascended into the sky one step after another, waving his hand towards her, traveling further and further away. His figure slowly disappeared under the sunset glow. Hualinga finally couldn't hold herself back, crying loudly while standing in the fire mulberry tree forest, tears clouding up her eyes. She lightly called out to him, forcefully waving towards the distance. Shahao's heart trembled. Hualinga couldn't see him, but he had long cultivated the heavenly eyes, so he could still see that lonely figure under the setting sun. He wanted to stop, but he found it difficult to turn around. That path was one he had to take. Are you going to leave just like that? In the sky, a middle-aged man arrived, staring at him, great sleeves fluttering about, naturally imposing. Fire Emperor. Shahao recognized him. The two previously met in the lower realm, obtaining his guidance, as well as receiving his assistance. Senior. Shahao spoke. Fire Emperor's style was just like before, eyes deep. He no longer wore the human emperor robe, now returning to normal, appearing more calm, his body possessing a great Dao aura. Right now, his emotions were greatly fluctuating, difficult to calm down. He looked at Shahao, and then at the distant fire mulberry tree forest. He couldn't help but sigh. Why aren't you giving her any hope? Fire Emperor asked, looking at Shahao, his eyes like torches, incomparably brilliant, shining with golden divine light. Shahao stared blankly, not understanding what he meant. I will return, as long as I am still alive, I will definitely return, Shahao promised. Then why can't you be together now? Even if it is just a few days, or even a few hours. Fire Emperor said. Shahao looked towards the distant skies, and then said, I fear that if something unexpected happens to me, I won't know how long it will be before I return. I am not scared of enemies, only most fearful of the great changes of time, of wronging her. What is wronging her? Do you feel like leaving like this, that Linga can let go everything, start a new life? Fire Emperor glowered at him. When Shahao heard this, he felt ashamed, saying, that wasn't my intention. But aren't the results the same? Even though you've left, Linga still can't forget you, submerged in this type of parting sorrow for her entire life. Instead of this, why not just stay together, even if it is just a day, give her hope, let her understand, leave her with deep memories. Fire Emperor berated. Shahao was stumped for words. He wanted to say something, yet couldn't say anything. He wanted to say that if he died in the desolate border, falling in the world beyond, at that time, wouldn't he be leaving behind sadness, making Hualinga feel sorrow? However, he then realized that if he left like this, never turning back, the result was the same. There would always be a girl silently waiting for him in the fire mulberry tree forest. All right, I'm returning, Shahao said. He turned into a golden rainbow, turning around in the horizon, rushing towards that fire mulberry tree forest, and then descending. In that forest, a lonely figure was crying, supporting herself against a fire mulberry tree, her weak body finding it difficult to stand. Shahao's eyes were sore. He quickly rushed over. Hualinga's eyes were blurry, hot tears continuously sliding down. She was extremely lonely, and in even greater despair, full of disappointment, deserted and empty inside. However, right now, she heard someone calling out to her. There was a figure before her. Through the tears and watery mist, she vaguely saw Shahao again. She silently wept. He already left, so how could he return? This should be an illusion. I pray that you are safe and sound far away. While looking at the figure before her, she prayed and offered her blessings quietly. I didn't leave yet. Shahao placed his hands on her soft shoulders, forcefully shaking her, telling her that this wasn't an illusion, that he was still here. You didn't leave yet. Hualinga's voice was trembling, quickly wiping away her tears, eyes immediately becoming bright. Then, she revealed a smile, feeling as if this world brightened again. Shahao felt ashamed, not knowing how to console her. Fire Emperor stood in the distance, not moving forward, calmly watching. Fire Emperor. Hualinga finally saw him, revealing a bit of shyness, as well a type of attachment. Today was a day of both sadness and joy, full of emotions. The two she cared about the most both appeared, lightening the sadness she felt inside a bit. Child, since there is some fate that brought you two together, then don't leave any regrets. I'll preside over your marriage today. Fire Emperor said resolutely. Father. Huolinga's face was slightly red, looking at her father with a smile, but also carrying tears. She felt admiration, sadness, and joy. We are all cultivators, so we don't need any unnecessarily long ceremonies. Everything will just be simple. I'll take charge of the marriage. Fire Emperor was incredibly decisive. Under the setting sun, Fire Emperor sat on a piece of blue stone, first having them pay their respects to heaven and earth, conducting the traditional wedding ritual. With only the Fire Emperor as their witness, the two of them became man and wife. Shahao felt ashamed inside. He was about to leave, not knowing if doing this was good or bad. When you leave the 3,000 provinces and head for the other ancient lands, you might meet all types of women, even girls that are descendants of true immortals. I won't demand much from you. I just don't want you to forget that you still have a girl waiting for you here. Fire Emperor said sternly. He then added, saying, I know that once you leave this place for the 9 heavens 10 earths, you will face all types of complex situations in the vast world with endless temptation, but I will still say the same thing. I won't demand anything of you, because you are a man, I understand. I had many concubines before as well, but let me emphasize again, no matter where you go, you cannot forget Linga. When he spoke up to hear, the Fire Emperor was already clenching his teeth, threatening with a loud voice. It was because not only was he the Fire Emperor, he was a father. This was purely out of love for his daughter, his way of protecting her, as well as displaying his worry. I won't forget. Shahao said seriously. Good. Even if you can't return, even if you cannot meet in this life, you still have to remember her. Fire Emperor stared at him, strictly warning. Shahao didn't get angry, instead being extremely moved. This type of father was worthy of respect. He took a deep breath and then said, Fire Emperor, do not worry, I will return. Huolinga cried. The 3,000 provinces were large enough already, while there was an even more vast world beyond with 9 heavens and 10 earths, as well as a desolate border. It was full of unknowns and unpredictable things. If there was a battle, the mountains and rivers under the sky died in blood. How were they supposed to meet then? How were they supposed to reunite? Shahao understood her feelings. He thought for a bit, and then sweat here. If there really is something unexpected that happens, unable to meet again in this life, I will still try to find a way to find you. How was he supposed to look for her then? Fire Emperor could only release a sigh. If we aren't able to reunite, the world undergoes great changes. If it truly is too hard to meet. Shahao's voice trembled, and then he suddenly raised his head, his gaze like divine rainbows as he said, I will change everything, find all, and then walk out from reincarnation. His voice wasn't loud, but it triggered irregular scenes. Lightning hacked down from the void, incredibly frightening. However, Shahao sent a fist into the heavens, scattering it all, not letting a single arc of electricity descend. Fire Emperor knew that some words, some actions, would trigger heavenly lightning, the irregular scenes world-shocking. Do you believe in reincarnation? The Fire Emperor asked. I do not. Shahao said. Then what is the meaning in saying this? If there isn't, then I'll create a type of reincarnation and find everything. Shahao replied. Fire Emperor waved his hand, not wishing to continue such a serious topic. That night, Shahao accompanied Huolinga. There was no closed bridal room, no house, no tables or chairs. They just sat on the ground back to back, gazing into the starry sky together. The two of them were together, continuously chatting, as if they were going to talk about everything they could ever talk about in this life, all the way until the sky brightened, all the way until the golden multicolored clouds of sunrise appeared. They were still reluctant to part. Even as their eyes met, finally unable to say anything, they still had to separate in the end. However, Huolinga's heart seemed to have calmed down. Go, I'll wait for you. It was just these simple words. Her face was calm, facing the sunrise's morning clouds, the smile extremely pure, and extremely brilliant. I'm going. Shahao got up. He gave his regards to Fire Emperor, and then bid Huolinga farewell. He rushed into the heavens, thus disappearing. He traveled through the sky. Only when he was far from Sin province did he release a great roar into the sky, shaking the void until it collapsed, the heavens trembling. Shahao turned into a Kuan-Peng, golden body carrying black-colored stripes that covered heaven and earth. The two wings moved, propelling him 90,000 li upwards into the limits of the horizon. That day, many people saw a Kuan-Peng, their hearts incredibly shaken. 3,000 provinces, a place vast and boundless. A single person's power was limited. No matter how powerful they were, it would still be difficult to travel through it. Shahao turned into the Kuan Peng, carrying a type of reluctance, a wave of emotions that were difficult to suppress. He spread his wings into the skies, moving through heaven and earth. After who knew how much time had passed, he sensed powerful figures staring at him, and only then did he hack apart the void, thus disappearing from the sky. His plan was to head into the boundless uninhabited region, and enter the legendary Forbidden Region. He might face many dangers, or even directly die. For the remainder of the path, he used the giant transport formations to travel from province to province, advancing towards his destination. Meanwhile, during this process, Shahao unexpectedly learned that the foreign guests lowered the expectations, allowing anyone to head towards that ancient path. As long as they could find that ancient city, they will consider them having passed, having the qualifications of entering the heavenly deity institution. The higher realms immediately erupted into commotion. Now, everyone already knew the purpose for the foreign guests' visit. Many geniuses were moved, truly wishing to immediately hurry into the uninhabited region. However, the higher levels of a few sects were frowning. If those young heroes were too self-confident, advancing there without fear of risks, then the higher realms' losses would be great. The sect master of Natural Luck Academy even died in that forbidden region. If you all wish to enter, you must properly think it over. From the past to present, the number of those who could come out alive are few. Act with prudence, caution, think 3 times over. A few great figures appeared, their words not many, but it was as if they poured cold water down on their heads, extinguished the fiery passion of quite a few youngsters' hearts. This was reality. The 3,000 provinces were extremely large, but that terrifying forbidden region was even more so, filled with dangers, to the extent where entering it was definitely 9 deaths 1 life. Even though there were a few regions that were already established, comparatively safer, that trial of fire, the ancient path, was definitely not one established through those places. Should they go or not? The 3,000 provinces could not remain calm in the following few days, commotion breaking out from all directions, many people discussing this. Do you think you are 10 Crown King? He has true strength, having the qualification to enter the heavenly deity institution, which is why treading on that path isn't that big of a deal. Exactly, we should wake up. We never cultivated immortal energy, far from being comparable to exiled immortal and the others. If we wanted to obtain the qualifications through luck, that's not realistic at all. Of course, there were some who weren't convinced, not believing in the supernatural, thinking that they still had potential to dig up. From the past to present, the true exceptional supreme beings are often late bloomers, all outstanding figures that would only gradually become stronger after several hundred years, progressively become more powerful. I believe that when I step into the heavenly deity domain, I will definitely advance by leaps and bounds, not being inferior to anyone else. A few youngsters had wild ambitions, feeling that they could rise up, not willing to remain ordinary. Their seniors sighed, seriously advising against this action. The supreme beings recorded in those bone books were all extremely rare individuals, not even one to be found among millions and millions, not worth imitating. When the foreign guests loosened the conditions, they also said something else. They told the geniuses of the 3,000 provinces that whether or not they cultivated immortal energy isn't important, because there was still an opportunity for them to rise up. The heavenly deity realm could change, to the extent where there are great cultivation realms, beyond that where one could bathe in flames and undergo rebirth. This undoubtedly boosted the morale of many people. Quite a few geniuses went on their way, carrying dreams and ambition. The higher realms became more and more noisy, unable to calm down. Shahao already arrived outside the uninhabited region according to plan. However, this place was different from the place where he entered immortal ancient remains, bordering several dozen provinces. This was a terrifying region few dared to step foot in. Meanwhile, the part of the uninhabited region that led into immortal ancient remains, even though it had dangers, was already pretty much explored, a place that could be entered. Xing province, at the outermost region, adjacent to enormous mountains that reached through the clouds. Shahao stood there, looking forward. Those great peaks in the forbidden region were just too tall. They were dark black, giving off a majestic and boundless aura, as if they supported the palaces of heavenly emperors. Halfway up the mountain was already fogbound, deep inside the clouds. It didn't feel like a mountain, but rather like pillars that propped up the heavenly dome. You've made your decision. Not far out, on a short mountain, the three great supreme beings had arrived, seated there, looking at Shahao below. Apart from them, Lin Qian, the blue-pupiled woman and the others were also present, standing at the side, extremely respectful and careful when speaking to those three, obeying their instructions. "I've decided," Shahao said. He already made his preparations, ready to head out on this journey at any time. "You should stay on the side and rest for the time being." On the short mountain, a middle-aged man pointed out with a finger. A praying mat appeared in the void, weaved out of white-colored divine grass, sparkling and shining. There were sounds of chanting that could be heard. On the side, the blue-pupiled woman and 5 individuals were incomparably shocked, especially Lin Qian, who revealed a look of envy, as if he attached quite a bit of importance to that praying mat. Shahao didn't say anything more, moving through the air and sitting down, closing his eyes to rest. Immediately, his mind was shaken. This praying mat was too strange. As soon as he sat down, it made his heart calm, his pains and sorrows departing from him. All of the feelings of reluctance were removed. Soon after, he entered a clear-minded state, about to comprehend the Tao. What kind of praying mat was this? He began to speculate inwardly. As if knowing what he was thinking, that blue-pupiled woman said with a smile, "This is definitely not some praying mat made of normal divine grass, but something from an immortal cave." Shahao was shocked. He knew that the 9 heavens 10 earths had many opportunities, and quite a bit of natural luck. There were naturally no lack of true immortal ancient caves. However now, he was personally sitting on the praying mat related to an immortal, leaving him quite shocked. Soon after, he calmed down again. It wasn't like he didn't encounter something similar before. He had previously brought back one from the Kuanpeng nest, but that praying mat was eaten by that emperor butterfly of his. This was definitely an embarrassing thing. If others knew, they would definitely ridicule him. During these past few months, Ning Chuan arrived, exiled immortal appeared, and even 10 crown king came. Apart from them, there were many people, not less than 100,000. The numbers weren't small, but compared to when they were entering immortal ancient remains, it was still much, much fewer. After all, it was far more dangerous this time, definitely 9 deaths 1 life, without many people able to survive. "Hey, over here." Shahao saw a fatty frantically waving his hands in the crowd. It was precisely Cao Yusheng. Apart from this, Shahao saw a few familiar people, for example, Goddess Academy's Feng Wu, Heaven-mending Sex Yu Chan, Sky-severing Sex Witch, and others, they all came. Apart from this, there were a few enemies, for example, Sword Valley's Jiyu Jianyun. Upon closer inspection, there were a few heroes from the 100,000 that had unordinary identities and statuses, this gathering quite powerful. I will say it again. There is a danger of falling at any time, you all must properly think it through. There is still time to back out now. A middle-aged man on the mountain said, carrying out the final warning. Even though there was quite the clamoring, no one withdrew. "All right, then let it begin." On the short mountain, a middle-aged man stood up. With a large swing of his sleeve, great winds swept about. A streak of resplendent light appeared in the uninhabited region, forming a great golden path, charging forward. "This is the path, you all just need to proceed forward. As long as you can persevere through, you'll be able to find that ancient city." Along with a wave of his great sleeve, the forbidden region surged with many symbols. As if it was activated, the ancient dust-covered path was opened up, welcoming the participants of this trial by flames. "Senior, have you walked through this path before?" Exiled Immortal asked. "I have not traveled through this path, but I have other methods of entering that ancient city." The middle-aged man on the short mountain said. When these words were spoken, many people's expressions turned pale, immediately changing. Not even this supreme being had traveled through it, yet they were supposed to. "I'm withdrawing." Just now, no one backed out, but now, there were immediately over 10,000 that chose to leave, no longer advancing. "Are there any others?" The 3 great supreme beings all stood up, looking at everyone. "All right, since there is no one, then be on your way." The 3 of them worked together. Multicolored mists rushed into the heavens, bone texts pouring out like a sea. They sent those who remained into that path. "Shahao, this way." The little fatty Cao Yusheng shouted. However, he was destined for disappointment. After the 3 great supreme beings took action, everyone turned into specks of light, entering that forbidden region with pilla-pala sounds. Everyone was separated, with few people close to each other. They were all scattered throughout this ancient path. This path's width alone reached 8,000 li, unimaginably long. It led directly into the uninhabited region's innermost depths. There were others who were already a million li out, while some only just started moving. This was the results of the three great supreme beings working together, separating them. Shahao entered this ancient land. He didn't feel like he was in a jungle, but more like a great desolate desert, because it was too quiet. Even though ancient trees reached into the heavens, rich with vegetation, there wasn't a trace of activity, no birds to be seen, no beast roars to be heard. There wasn't even an insect in sight. This was extremely strange, but this was the true uninhabited region. No cultivators like himself could be seen, at the very least, he didn't meet any yet. Shahao opened his heavenly eyes, inspecting all of the scenery around him, not letting any abnormalities through. It was because even the yellow mud and water droplets here could kill sect masters. Ah! Suddenly, a miserable cry sounded. A cultivator screamed in fear just several dozen li in front of him. Shahao's eyebrows frowned. His body moved, and then like a streak of light, he shot out while staying close to the ground. However, what was shocking was that it sounded like it came from several dozen li away, yet he only noticed something after running several hundred li. The scene before his eyes left him shocked. More than 10 corpses were hanging from an ancient tree's forked branch. Perhaps, it was more correct to say that there were more than 10 sets of shriveled-up human skin. It wasn't the skin that was peeled off, but rather that something sucked out all of their blood, refined their bones, devouring the marrow, internal organs, and others, only leaving behind a set of intact skin that fluttered about in the wind, hanging on that ancient tree. Shahao's eyes became cold. What kind of thing was that? It was too strange. His divine senses didn't capture anything, while he didn't see anything even after rushing over. Kai. Suddenly, a stalk of withered grass moved, flying towards him. Shahao avoided it. That stalk of withered grass released a hong sound, directly smashing a distant towering black mountain into fine pieces. Shahao turned around, looking in a direction. With a cheong sound, he pulled out the everlasting immortal sword. Whenever he used this sword, it was always when he displayed killing intent, or when the situation looked extremely bad. A cold laughter sounded, carrying endless chilliness. Then, an ancient language he had never heard of before sounded in this jungle, the voice full of malice. Shahao couldn't understand this language, but he sensed its divine will. After crossing the desolate border, there's immediately so much food waiting for me, what great luck. These words made Shahao shiver coldly. He knew that things were bad, something major happening. Those three supreme beings might not have even anticipated something unexpected happening to this path. There were actually creatures from the other side of the desolate border that crossed over. This is definitely a huge incident. What kind of existence is it exactly? Shahao widened his eyes. Part 1 end here.